Today we will have a look at what Terraform is and what we can use it for. Terraform is possibly still the most popular infrastructure as code tool. Infrastructure as code means that this tool can be used for infrastructure provisioning, mainly in cloud, but it's not limited to cloud. And then you can keep your infrastructure in the form of a code, which is very handy, because you can copy it, you can version it, you can store it remotely, etc. It's also declarative, which means you declare what the end result should look like, and Terraform will figure out itself what has to be done to achieve that. But I don't want to bore you with theory. It's easier to show exactly how Terraform works by simply installing it and creating something in the cloud. Let's start with Terraform installation. I will Google something like how to install Terraform. Terraform is a tool from HashiCorp, so let's click on that first link. Let's scroll down, and these are the instructions on how to do that, depending on what the operating system you have. So I've got Linux, so I will click on that, and I'm on Ubuntu, so I can use those commands. Let's just copy this one first, open the terminal, and we'll just paste it here. And the next command, install the GPG key. Let's paste it as well. That was quick. Verifying is optional, I believe. So I will click this one now. That. And believe it's the last one, install Terraform. Let's double check if there is nothing else. Terraform help. Okay, we can verify if the Terraform is installed. You can see the available arguments. That means the Terraform was installed correctly. Let me clear maybe. That's fine, but this is Terraform installed locally on our laptop. However, it has to be able to connect to our AWS Cloud, or at least in my example, it will be AWS Cloud. So I have to connect it somehow. And in Terraform language, this AWS is called Provider. So this is my cloud, this is my AWS Cloud. This is the infrastructure provider for Terraform. This is where we want to build simply something. It can be your on-prem data center, it can be maybe you have other cloud like Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean, or maybe something else, I don't know. But because my provider is AWS, let's Google something like Terraform AWS Provider configuration. Let's check that first link. And that's exactly what I need, AWS Provider. So let's scroll down, and this documentation will always give you some examples, which is really handy. So this is the example of the code we can use, but let me scroll a little bit further, because I need also information how do I connect to AWS first of all. And here we've got provider configuration. Credentials can be provided by adding the access key and secret key, and you know what, maybe we can use that. What I will do now, I will go back to my terminal. I will create new folder, so we can keep our code in this folder. I will cd to this newly created folder now, and we can start creating our infrastructure using simple text file. I will use vim, and then I can call it whatever I want, maybe my server. But I have to give it extension .tf. This way Terraform will know it has to read this file, and it can build the infrastructure based on information inside that file. So let's click enter. And we need that first portion that was here. We will copy that. I don't need the last bit, I just need the provider bit. Paste it here. But I will also change this region, because in AWS I usually build everything in London. As you can see, there are no instances, there are no servers, nothing here, but my region is usually London, which is EU West 2. So let me change that to EU West 2. That's it. Then what we will need is that portion with credentials, so we are able to connect to our AWS Cloud in the first place. Okay, you can see it's repeated information, provider AWS region, provider AWS region. So let me just remove that duplicate entry. And we need our access key and secret key. I can't remember if I have one, but that's not a problem. We'll just go back. And this may vary, from provider to provider. But how it's done in AWS, I can simply go to IAM. That's the service in AWS. I can go to users. Administrator, okay, that's who I am right now. So I will click that, security credentials, and then access keys. Okay, so I've got some, but I can't remember what they are. So I will create new access key. And I will need the first option, command line interface. And I will create new keys, create access key. And this is exactly what I need for our Terraform to be able to connect to our AWS Cloud. So access key is this, I will copy it, paste it there. And the secret key is that. So I will copy it. Oh, by the way, it's very important you do not show them to anybody. I mean, I am showing them, but they will be removed once the video is released. Actually, I will remove them right after I finish the recording, but it's important that you keep them safe. Whoever has those keys will be able to access your AWS cloud, so you have to keep it secure. But for these purposes, I will just copy them. And that's it. That's our Terraform configured. But that's only the configuration, so Terraform can connect to our cloud. But what if I want to build something in that cloud? So we were in that EC2 tab. EC2 means virtual servers in the cloud. This is the area where I can build my servers. And as you can see, I don't have any instances right now. But what if I want to build a server using Terraform? To do that, we can simply go back to Google and search for something like Terraform create AWS instance. Because server is called instance in AWS. So let's click on that, first link, and again you have some examples how to build AWS instance. So let's see what we have here. You will have multiple examples, again, depending on what exactly how you want to build it, but let's go back to the top and maybe use the very first example. And okay, what I can see, what it does, it has like two portions. This first portion searches for the newest Ubuntu available, because AMI is Amazon Machine Image. It's simply an operating system for our server, or sometimes it can be operating system and some programs pre-installed. But in this example, it will just search for the latest Ubuntu image for our server, and then it will use it here in this line. You know what, this is fine, this example will work fine, so we'll just copy it all and we'll paste it to our Terraform code. That's basically it. Let me just save it now. So if I will now preview that file, we now have all information that we need. This portion will tell Terraform what we are working with. We are telling Terraform we are working with AWS as our provider. This is the information how Terraform can access that AWS cloud. And this is what we are actually building. This is the AWS instance. We are building our virtual server. So let's go back to AWS. Just to double check, there are no matching instances, means I have no instances running right now. We'll go back here to Terraform. And first I have to run command terraform init. And this command will pull all the modules that it needs to be able to work with AWS as a provider. Because even though you installed Terraform, it doesn't have all modules installed, because it wouldn't make much sense. Terraform can work with many providers, and there is no point to install all the modules at the same time during the installation. It will simply pull it at this stage just for the relevant provider, in our case AWS. But that's fine, this is done. So next command we need is terraform plan. And what terraform plan does, it really tells you what is going to be built based on the information in our file. So it found the AMI, that machine image, the operating system for our server, and most other information is known after apply because we didn't give it much information. Instance type is the size of the server, but that's basically it. So what we can do now, we can run terraform apply, and terraform apply will actually start building this infrastructure for us within AWS. So let's run it, terraform apply. And terraform apply runs the plan as well, because we can see the same information again, so we can have a look. The plan is to add one resource, which is our server, and the resource can be anything we built within that AWS, but this time it asks us if everything we see above is what we really want to build within that cloud. So the answer is yes, that's what we want to build, and click enter again. And now the resource is being created. So if I go to AWS now and refresh it, you can see the server is now, well, still creating, it says, but that resource is being built now. So I struggle to have it. Well, the thing is, it's finished already. It says creation completed after 13 seconds. That means our server now is up and running. If we refresh it, well, it's still initializing, but basically it created the server. That's the public IPv4 address of our server. Oh, I didn't even notice it has a name, Hello World. That name must be somewhere in our code then. Let's go back to our code, vim my server. Let's have a look. Oh yes, there it is. Name Hello World. But we have built our server, yes? I want to show what that declarative really means, that Terraform is declarative approach. Let me now run this command again. So I will just up arrow and I will run terraform apply. Let's see what happens. Click enter. Have a look at that. No changes. Your infrastructure matches the configuration. So Terraform didn't run the plan, it didn't ask us if we want to create anything, it already knows what we have in our file is exactly what we have in our cloud as well. But how does it know it? If we go back to the terminal and we check the available files, okay, I didn't show what it looked like before. Basically, we only had this file. We only created myserver.tf. Those files, terraform.tfstate, log, and this hidden folder were created by Terraform when we ran those terraform init, plan, and apply commands. And terraform.tfstate is the file that will have all the information about our resources in the cloud. I can run cat terraform.tfstate, but it's very long output. What I can do instead, I can run terraform show command, which displays a little bit more human-friendly version of that. It will give me all information about my instance. For example, my instance ID is this, and Terraform made a note of that. And you can compare it to the cloud. You can see it matches 53E it ends with. And that's what Terraform has in its TF state. So it simply compares what is in TF state and what currently is in the cloud. And if this infrastructure matches, there is nothing for Terraform to do. But I want to go a little bit further with that. Let's create another server. How we would create another server in Terraform? We can simply go back to our code, vim my server, and I will just copy this last portion. And let's paste it below. But to distinguish it, I will change the resource name, which is this bit. We'll call it web2, and we don't have to, but we can also change that tag. Hello world maybe _2. Now let's save it and run terraform apply again. Let's see what happens. Terraform tells us, we can already see here hello world 2, and it plans to add one resource, which means it plans to add only one server, because one is already up and running. It only has to add a second one to match what is in the code and what is in the AWS Cloud. So we approve that. Web 2 is now being created. And that's it. Resources 1 added. So if I refresh it, I should see hello world 2 this time, second instance. And now I can run terraform apply again. As you can guess, it will say infrastructure matches the configuration. But let's mess up our configuration in the cloud. Let's remove this first server. It's already ticked here. I'll just say instance state, terminate instance. And I will terminate it, but I will terminate it in AWS console. We can see it's shutting down. So we've got the new instance running, but the previous one is now being terminated. Let's refresh. Now there is only one instance running. Let's see what Terraform will do now if I run terraform apply. Okay, maybe I was too quick to actually do that, because that instance is not fully terminated. If I remove this button, yes, it's still saying shutting down. But let's give it a few seconds more. Oh, already terminated. So now, sorry, if I run it again, terraform apply, now it should tell me one to add. Why? Because it noticed this first instance, remember that was the ID, ending with 53E. Terraform realized that this instance, it no longer exists. So it wants to create it back, because our code says we need to have two instances running. So I just type yes, and it will recreate my instance. Note that the ID will be different now, because every single instance will have different ID, but this doesn't really matter. what is important for us, that we have 2 running instances in the cloud. So we've got again one that is called hello world, and it's ending now with 1A3, which is what Terraform made a note of. So that's really what declarative means. You declare something in the file, and if anybody messes up your infrastructure, it's not the end of the world, because you simply go back to your Terraform, you just apply that infrastructure, and Terraform will figure out what has to be added, removed, etc. to bring back the infrastructure up to this stage that you declared in the file. Hope that makes sense, sorry. Oh yes, and by the way, how do you remove those instances using Terraform? Let's say you no longer need them. So what do? Terraform has a command called destroy. So it's simply terraform destroy. And if we run it, it will create plan again, but this time it will be plan to destroy our instances. And if that's what, not only instances, sorry, but also volumes and everything that comes with it. That's important to note. And it's a main difference between clicking something in GUI here and doing it in Terraform. Terraform does proper cleanup. It will remove not only instance, but volumes, etc. Everything that was built during the Terraform apply stage. So we just click yes, we want to destroy them, and we just wait, destroying those 2 instances. So if I now refresh, I should start seeing, okay, first they are shutting down, and after a while they will be terminated. And now they are destroyed. It took a little bit longer than expected. I had to fast forward the video, but if we refresh it now, the state should be terminated for all of them. That's all I wanted to say in this video. Thank you for watching.